what do we mean by dialing the autonomy of the interaction, right? So on one end of the spectrum, we have this fully automated interaction, regardless of the channel, right? Where the end consumer, the end user, is only interacting with AI. And all of the answers are provided by a generative model. All of the data might have been made through tool calls. All the context might have been provided during the conversation or via external services. But there is no human interaction at all, right? And it either resolves it or it doesn't, but no human ever kind of joins the conversation. So that's one spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum, there's obviously fully human, right? Where there is no AI. Maybe we can say it's AI assisted, right? So if we want to put AI into the loop, where that might be a live chat or a live conversation where the human is handling every bit of interaction, but it's supported by the AI, right? Meaning that you have an engine or a model on the side that perhaps either suggests things to say or to do to the agent based on how the conversation is going, or perhaps even calling tools or other services for the human agent during that interaction. And essentially, it allows the human agent to really be fully focused on the interaction itself, right? And then there's everything in between. There is conversations that perhaps start with AI, again, regardless of the channel, and at which point maybe the business decides that they want to put guardrails around a threshold for a refund. They want to say if a refund is over a certain amount, then we need human eyes on it, and we need humans to be able to give the go-ahead, right? And so in that specific scenario, if during the start of the conversation or the interaction, the return amount is over that threshold of $500, then you can bring in a human into the conversation. And there you have two choices, right? Either you decide that the human joins the conversation, right? And then takes over for the AI. And so now the end consumer is interacting directly with the human agent, right? And that's fine. Or you could do a hybrid of that where the human agent actually assists the AI and basically tells the AI, this is what you should answer the end customer, or yes, it's approved. But once they're done with that specific job, right, then the AI carries on with the rest of the conversation. And that's fine too, right? That allows the human agent to perhaps go on and do other things. So anywhere in between is what the ideal state for a product is, right? So the consumer or the customer deploying this to their end consumer kind of decides and chooses their own adventure for their customers. Now, how do we decide, where on the spectrum we fall for a use case? There's a lot of factors. Surely, sensitivity of the use case is one of them, but that's not it. Accuracy of the model is another one, right? How much do you trust the AI to make the right decisions, right? Appetite from the consumer. How much are they willing to interact with your AI is another, right? Governance, internal policies, government regulations, right? Ability to track and QA what's happening. All these are considerations for how much of the dial you want to turn up or down, right? In an ideal world where you had access to all the data, to all the systems, all the context, and you knew that the accuracy of the interaction was 95, 97, 98%, close or better than the actual human interaction, then most likely you'd want to go fully automated, right? I'll give you an example as an end consumer of that, right? There is one specific company that I interact with a lot, and there's one question in particular that I have a lot, and I know that the AI cannot answer it. So I don't even ask it, I go straight to, I want to talk to somebody. And I know they can answer it fairly easily. In fact, I used to only want to speak to them on a call. They got much better at chat, so I'm okay with chat now, depending on the situation, right? As an end user, if I'm in a hurry, I'll call. If I have time, then I'll be okay with chatting, right? Having said that, if I knew that they were able to answer my questions via their AI bot, I would 100% do it, right? Either voice or chat or whatever the channel that is. There's two things that needs to be taken into consideration. The cost of getting it wrong, right? If the cost of getting wrong is too high, then you're going to have a higher threshold at which you're going to be ready to be fully autonomous, right? If the cost of getting it wrong could be a lawsuit, millions of dollars, then you're going to have a pretty high bar for what you find acceptable as a business, right? And that may be closer to 100%, right? And so we need to get to a point where, even within the AI interaction, there is the ability to provide some determinism, right? So that the business can feel confident that in this specific use case, we get it right 100% of the time, right? And that might be the only way that a business might do it. Now, other use cases, depending on the business, where the cost of getting it wrong is perhaps to replace a part that costs, $10 when they didn't have to. Well, it's not too bad. And maybe the cost of getting it wrong outweighs the benefits of being able to not put a human in the loop, right? Now, I also want to say that human in the loop, in some ways, is absolutely always going to be present, in my view, right? Not necessarily because they're going to interact directly with the end consumer, but because I guess we'd have to consider, how do we define human in the loop? There will be a time, probably, where the humans is actually going to mostly manage agents, AI agents, or AI conversations, right? And they're going to monitor them, and they're going to, keep track of how AI conversation is going, the frustration of the customer, right? And they may never intervene, but in a way, the human is in the loop because they're observing, right? And it's kind of a funny paradigm, right? Like, where for a long time we're thinking of AI kind of assisting the human, and now we're going to start thinking about the human assisting the AI. I think there are times where we wanted to go fully autonomous, but there was too much complexity to get there. And so we never pulled the trigger on it, right? And we were able to kind of rein it back and say, it's best to get 80% of the way there versus trying to go 100 and getting it wrong, right? So we were always super careful about not putting our customers into a bad situation, right? So we never deployed something we shouldn't have, right? Now, there are times where you deploy something that doesn't perform as well, but we understood the risks and we were okay with that. More importantly, the customer was okay with that and they were fully aware of that, right? And the other piece of it is where we've deployed fully autonomous without sounding too pompous. Almost every time we're gonna go fully autonomous, like, we feel like it's the right call, and mostly because there is really some strong indicators that it is, right? Again, appetite of the customer, their end consumer, the cost of getting it wrong. These are all considerations that we talk about before we decide to go fully autonomous, right? And so we're pretty careful about how we deploy this. Well, so when they dial it up too fast, what happens is huge gaps are being uncovered, right? It's like, we want to go there right away, and then if you go there right away, you realize, oh my God, there are a lot of gaps with our soaps, with our knowledge, with our data, with even our infrastructure, with our data, with the way that our teams are being structured, right? And so you go up too fast, it uncovers a whole lot of gaps within the company, right? And so again, like I said, we've never gone there where we've fully deployed autonomous and then rolled it back, because we tend to be, we want to move fast, but we operate in very sensitive environments. And so we want to make sure that when we do it right. But it's both the advantage of the curse of this whole process, is that you in order to make the business better, you discover a lot of areas that need to be improved, right? And AI can assist in these improvements and enhancements in some circumstances. In others, the knowledge workers or the business needs to make these decisions, right? To actually put in the resources to get it to a point where AI can truly make a differentiation in the business. I think we've all had bad experiences with AI, especially probably 2 years ago, right? And the AI has gotten better. It's still not perfect. It will continue to get better for sure. These frontier models keep evolving day after day. But the way we approach this is by saying that let's start with making sure that we can help identify the gaps in your knowledge, standard operating procedures, and let's make sure that we put a human in front of every single one of these interactions, right? And at some point, we'll be able to determine the effectiveness of these workflows or SOPs. And if we feel like they provide good guidance, then we can start automating them, right? Now, if we start discovering that the human agents are doing things outside of what was defined as a skill, as a workflow, as an SOP, then we know it's the time to actually change these skills, SOPs within the system because they're not accurate, right? The human agents to make judgment calls that are outside of what they're guided to do, right? So these are great signals for us. Once we get to a point where the human agents no longer deviate from that, then we can start going autonomous. There's new mechanisms with self-learning softwares and tools and loops that allow you to kind of that allow the AI to get better as the time goes on, right? There's different ways to kind of gather context and feed the context to the AI, right? Obviously, the industry talks a lot about context, and the truth is that AI does need context to be able to make the right calls. But by the way, so do humans, right? I need context to be able to answer a customer's question. Without context, I'm just making things up, right? Except I know I'm making things up. The AI sometimes makes things up and makes it seem like it's completely normal, right? So these are the things that we need to guard against. So 100% clarifying questions, right? If the AI keeps asking the same clarifying questions, then we know that it might be the right question to ask to get to the answer, right? So there's ways to kind of quantify that, the quality of these questions, and to kind of feed the model with best practices, right? But when we talk to customers, there are a lot of intangibles. The data, operational data is one thing, right? But one thing that, without having to build your own proprietary model, you can do is also feed these engines with information about your business, how you like to interact with customers. What are your business goals even, right? Not just, what is a standard operating procedure, but as a business, I'm trying to go from here to there, right? And the AI can leverage that type of information to be able to kind of guide interactions in one way or the other. Model context protocols were kind of designed as best practice by Anthropic, and they're being adopted in the industry as best practice, right? And everybody is kind of standardizing around that. And that's a good thing because we all need to standardize on some things to allow agent-to-agent communication and to allow context to flow more easily. So MCPs in particular are great because they're an easy way for systems to be able to share information and talk to each other, right? There's a standardized way of passing and receiving data with MCP servers and MCP clients. And whereas it used to take a while to have to maybe create API endpoints for every piece of data that I wanted from a system, MCP servers, if you can wrap those APIs with an MCP server, then it facilitates both the vendors like us who want to access the data, but also the customers who purchase these vendors to help them with their business, because now IT no longer needs to build specialized endpoints for a specific use case, right? Or if they do, they build it once and then it's available within the MCP server, and then you can, with checkmark, give access or deny access for a specific use case. So it's actually been huge for us as a business, but really for the industry as a whole to be able to share information more seamlessly and still keep the right controls around what you share, right? That's the important thing as well. I think it's always nice for companies to grade themselves, right, and give themselves a score. The only true score that matters is whether or not there's adoption from customers. So you can claim 95% accuracy, or 93% accuracy, But the truth is that customers need to see that, right? Not because you ran a random test that was biased in favor towards you, right? Everybody kind of claims these same types of things. So that's one thing. I do think that if you give it enough time, you will get closer and closer to 100%, because I think we will figure out how to incorporate more determinism into this AI, right? And so how quick, I have no idea, right? But certainly I think within 4 years, we'll be at a place where, we'll be as close to 100% as we can possibly be without making any marginal gains anymore, right? You reach a point where whatever gains you make aren't really consequential. So within 4 years, I think we'll get there. And it's going to be part system, part model, right? And it's always going to come down to also during that time, our ability as businesses to be able to make the data AI friendly and ecosystems AI friendly. So there's infrastructure conversations as well as model accuracies, and then overall our appetite for it, right? I do think that we'll get used to talking or interacting more with AI. If it's a free-flowing conversation and I feel like I'm talking to a human, then it's going to help. Having said that, I also see the point at which a human interaction is going to be a premium and highly valued, and maybe something that people are willing to pay for, right? To say, I don't care how great the AI is, right? I still want to talk to somebody, even if it's just to reset a password, right? But maybe not for like a low value use case like this. But I think we're starting to see now in other areas where there is a premium for proving that it's not AI generated, right? People are going out of their way to prove that I did this as a human. The AI didn't, right? And so there's going to be a version of that, I think, at some point, even in the customer support space. Even if we were at a point where everything was fully automated, it doesn't mean that humans are no longer involved, right? Like, you'll need humans, agents, to be there, right? They'll just have different roles, and their role isn't maybe no longer going to be to carry on 20-minute conversations. Maybe their role is going to be to carry on snippets of conversations or to assist the AI, and it's going to be a bit different, but it's still going to be very important. I don't think we're going to move to a place where humans are just obsolete, right? We'll still need to keep that level of governance over the tools that we deploy, including AI, and perhaps even especially AI. Going back to the conversation about people kind of grading the accuracy of their own models and the success, that last year, I think about 70% of all AI agents that were deployed were pulled back because there were some security gaps, right, that hadn't been identified before they got deployed. And so accuracy is different than production ready in a lot of cases, right? And so we can say we've made all these advances, but you hear a bunch of numbers. 95% of all AI deployments fail, right? Only 5% have some sort of ROI for every company, right? And so you hear these numbers coming on one end from people who deploy AI, right, and saying, well, it's not that successful. And then on the other hand, from people who actually create the AI, saying it's amazingly great. And the truth lies somewhere in between, right? And so I think, it's not that the technology can't help, is that we need to deploy in the right places and be smart about what we deploy. AI is a tool, it's not the end goal. And I think people are realizing that more and more. You don't deploy AI for the sake of deploying AI. If you can do a simple, regressions test, then you probably shouldn't be using AI. You should be using some sort of workflow, right? We'll end up finding the right medium, and the second half of this year is going to be interesting, but I think 2027, I think is going to be the year where we level around what's acceptable, better usage, better deployment of the technology, and more ROI across the board.